Imagine paying full price at a restaurant, only for the waiter to hand you a plate of completely raw meat, a basket of uncooked vegetables, and then, they just walk away.
Right. I mean, in almost any other dining scenario, you would probably just get up and walk right out the door.
You really would. But today, we are going to explore why that exact scenario is actually the starting point for one of the greatest, most beloved culinary experiences in the world. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I am so glad you are here with us today.
Yes, welcome. We have a truly wonderful topic today. We are going to explore the mechanics, the specific terminology, and, well, the incredible communal joy of a first-time visit to a hot pot restaurant.
Exactly. And we want to keep things at a nice, relaxed pace today. So just sit back, relax, and let us guide you through this. We will make sure every step and every new word is clear and easy to follow.
That's right. And to really understand the magic of this meal, we have to set the scene first. So imagine you are in Beijing. It is the middle of winter.
Oh, that cold winter wind.
Exactly. It is a freezing, biting, cold night. The wind is just howling outside.
Yes. So picture yourself walking down that street. You are bundled up, you're shivering, and then you push through the heavy doors of a bustling restaurant.
And the change is instant.
It really is. Immediately you are hit by this incredible wall of warm, fragrant steam. It smells like rich spices. The contrast between that bitter cold outside and the intense glowing warmth inside, well, that is where this experience truly begins.
It's a brilliant psychological shift, really.
Yeah.
We're looking at the mechanics of this dining experience today, and what becomes immediately clear is how it takes a potentially confusing scenario for a beginner and turns it into an incredibly inviting process.
It completely changes the way you interact with your food because, the best part of this meal, you are about to become the chef.
You really are. You are in total control.
And it all starts with the foundation. Before any cooking can happen, before you even look at the food you are going to eat, you have to build the environment right there on your table. You have to choose the broth.
Right. And this brings us to a very important concept for anyone learning about this, the soup base, and specifically the absolute genius of the divided pot.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, the divided pot is basically a perfect diplomatic treaty. Let's take a second to really think about that.
A diplomatic treaty. I like that comparison.
Right, because whenever you go out to eat with a group of friends, there is always this dilemma of compromise. Someone wants something incredibly spicy, something that makes their eyes water.
Oh, definitely. And someone else at the table simply cannot handle any spice at all.
Exactly. So usually someone has to give in. But the divided pot, it's a large metal pot split right down the middle with a curved piece of metal. So it creates two entirely different biomes existing in one shared ecosystem right in the middle of the table.
What's fascinating here is how beautifully that design solves the social friction of eating together. Nobody has to compromise. One side of the pot can be a mild, soothing, savory broth.
Very safe, very delicious.
Exactly. And the other side can be an intensely spicy broth.
Sure.
It ensures everyone can sit at the same table, share the same meal, and enjoy it perfectly tailored to their own taste.
That is so welcoming. But the spicy side isn't just a generic heat. When we look at this specific style of dining, especially in Beijing, we have to talk about a very special spicy soup, originally from Sichuan province.
We really do. We are talking about the mala flavor.
Let's actually slow down and say that word together, especially if you are picking up some new vocabulary today. Mala.
Mala. And looking at the linguistic breakdown of that word is so revealing because it tells you exactly what is going to happen in your mouth.
What does it mean literally?
Well, ma translates directly to numbing. This comes from a very specific ingredient called the Sichuan peppercorn, and la translates to spicy, which comes from chili peppers.
Numbing and spicy. Wow. So it is not just a flavor, right? It is a special feeling in your mouth. You aren't just tasting the broth, you are actually feeling a tactile sensation on your tongue and your lips.
Yes, it is a literal physical reaction. It feels almost like a tiny electrical buzz, or maybe like the carbonation in a sparkling drink, but on a totally different level.
It is a profound sensory experience, and we should explain why this happens, just to make it super clear.
Of course. When we usually talk about flavors, we use words like sweet, salty, or sour. Those rely on taste receptors. But the Sichuan peppercorn in the mala broth contains a molecule that physically interacts with the nerve endings in your mouth.
Wait, Really? It affects your nerves.
Yes, it physically alters the way your mouth feels, touch, and temperature. So it crosses the boundary from a simple taste into a physical touch.
That is so cool. It just heightens the whole meal. So let's visualize our table again. We have our boiling divided pot. One side is a calm, mild broth, maybe white and creamy.
And the other side is this bubbling, bright red, numbing, spicy malavolcano.
The stage is set. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because a broth is just a blank canvas, right? Now we introduce the food.
This is where we move from the setup to the actual action.
Yeah.
You are presented with a menu, and you are ordering raw food.
Right?
You might choose very thin beef slices, maybe some lamb slices, a variety of green vegetables, soft tofu, and fresh mushrooms.
Let's picture that for a moment. The waiter brings all of this to your table, beautifully arranged on plates, but it is entirely raw.
Completely uncooked.
You don't just sit back and wait for a chef in the back kitchen to cook it for you. You have to pick up your chopsticks, take these raw meats and vegetables, and put them into the boiling soup yourself. It is a mini cooking party at the table.
I love that phrase from the source text. A mini cooking party. The preparation of the food actually becomes the main source of entertainment for the evening.
It sounds so fun.
Yeah.
But I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least ask a question on behalf of anyone who might be feeling slightly intimidated.
Sure, what's on your mind?
Well, cooking it yourself at a mini cooking party sounds great, but doesn't it also sound a bit stressful? I mean, you are sitting there trying to catch up with your friends, having a conversation, but you have to constantly monitor your food so you don't ruin it.
That is a very fair point.
Yep.
You absolutely cannot just drop everything into the pot and forget about it. There are strict rules of timing. The most famous example is the 10-second rule for the meat.
Right, the 10-second rule. The beef and lamb slices are cut incredibly thin, almost paper thin, actually. Because they are so thin, they only need 10 seconds in the boiling soup.
10 seconds. Think about how fast that goes by.
It's so fast. If you get distracted by a story your friend is telling, or, if you look down at your phone, your meat is ruined. If you leave it in the boiling water for 20 or 30 seconds, it overcooks.
And overcooked meat is not tender.
Exactly. It becomes tough and chewy. It loses that crucial tender quality that makes it melt in your mouth. Honestly, that feels like a lot of pressure for a relaxing night out.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that exact pressure is what creates the unique communal psychology of hot pot. It is actually a feature, not a bug.
Oh, really? How so?
Think about what happens to human behavior when you have a tiny 10-second window to cook a piece of food perfectly. You cannot be on your phone. You cannot be zoned out staring at the wall. You have to be entirely physically present in that moment.
Wow. Okay, I love that perspective. So it actually forces engagement.
Yes. Because you are literally cooking your meal piece by piece, you are anchored to the present moment. You are bonding over the shared stakes of not overcooking your dinner.
That completely transforms dining from a passive experience where you just consume whatever is placed in front of you into a totally active, shared event.
Everyone at the table is engaged in the same immediate task. It requires attention and it requires care. And because you're all dipping your chopsticks into the same shared pot, navigating around each other, watching the rolling boil of the soup, it naturally breaks down social barriers.
That makes so much sense. You are leaning in, you are interacting. The mini cooking party isn't just a clever way for the restaurant to save money on kitchen staff. It's actually an engine for social connection.
It brings people closer together, and you get to celebrate the small victories together too.
Yeah.
Pulling a perfectly cooked, beautifully tender slice of beef out of the broth exactly on the 10th second is incredibly satisfying.
It is a shared responsibility. But the customization of this meal doesn't end when you pull that perfectly tender beef slice out of the boiling broth.
Not at all.
Because there's a whole other layer to this experience that we haven't even touched yet. The flavor journey is only half over.
Right. We have to talk about the sauce station.
Yes, the dipping sauce. In a typical restaurant, if you order a steak or a dumpling, the chef decides what sauce goes with it. But with Hot Pot, you don't just get handed a standard sauce.
No, you do not.
You actually get up from your table, walk over to a dedicated sauce station in the restaurant, and you make your own.
This raises an important question about the ultimate level of customization that this dining format offers. It really is unparalleled.
It really is.
Think about the sequence of choices you have made so far. You already chose the soup base, managing the spice levels. You selected your specific raw ingredients. The tofu, the mushrooms, the lamb. You controlled the exact cooking time to achieve the precise texture you want.
And now you get to engineer the final flavor profile with your own custom dipping sauce. Let's paint a picture of the sauce station for everyone listening.
Please do.
It is usually a long table covered in dozens of little bowls filled with different ingredients. You grab an empty bowl and you start mixing. You can choose from a rich, creamy sesame paste. You can add minced garlic, freshly chopped green onions, cilantro, soy sauce, vinegar, and bright red chili oil.
You're literally mixing your own personal flavor potion. And the way these sauce ingredients interact with the food is fascinating from a culinary science perspective.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Let's look at the sesame paste, for example. It is thick and very rich in oils and fats. If you just pulled a piece of meat out of the intensely spicy, numbing mala broth, your mouth is going to be burning.
Yes, definitely.
But if you dip that meat into the sesame paste, the fats in the paste actually bind to the spicy oils, coating your tongue and physically cooling down that burning sensation.
Oh, that is brilliant. So it acts as a buffer. If you want a bite to be intensely garlicky, you load up your bowl with garlic. If you want to cool down the mala spice, you lean heavily into the rich, nutty flavor of the sesame paste. It is total control.
Exactly. And for anyone who is new to this or perhaps learning how to navigate this experience in English, there is a very specific set of vocabulary words that act as the keys to unlocking this whole meal.
Yes, I want to make sure we highlight those because if you are listening and wanting to try this, these are the core concepts you need to know. We will take these nice and slow.
We can think of these words as your functional operating instructions. First, you have the soup base. That is your foundation.
Soup base.
Then you need to understand the word spicy, especially when deciding between the two sides of your pot.
Right, the soup base and the spicy level set up your cooking environment, nice and clear.
Then you have your raw items and your ingredients. You need to know these words to understand what you are ordering and to know how to handle the food safely.
Right, because you start with raw ingredients.
Next is the word boiling. You must understand that the liquid needs to be actively boiling to ensure the cooking mechanism works safely and quickly.
Boiling, got it.
And finally, the word tender.
Tender, that is the ultimate goal, right? You want the meat to be soft and easy to chew. So what does this all mean? When we take all these concepts, the vocabulary words, the split pot, the raw ingredients, the 10-second timing, the custom dipping station, you realize they all come together to create a dining experience that is completely unique to the individual every single time.
That is the true beauty of it. Even if you and I are sitting at the exact same table, shivering from the same cold Beijing winter night, and eating from the exact same metal pot, my bite of food is going to taste entirely different from your bite of food.
That's so true, because your bite might have been cooked in the mild, savory side of the pot, and maybe you left the mushroom in there for 2 minutes so it soaked up all the broth, and then you dipped it in a sauce made heavily of garlic and vinegar.
While your bite was a thin slice of lamb, cooked in the bubbling, numbing malaside for exactly 10 seconds, and dipped into a thick, cooling layer of sesame paste and chili oil.
It is incredible to think about. It is a deeply communal meal. We are sharing the heat, we are sharing the space, but it is simultaneously a deeply personal, customized experience.
It provides a very structured framework. The restaurant gives you the pot, the heat, and the ingredients. But within that framework, the diner has total, absolute autonomy.
It really makes you think about how much agency you actually have in a typical restaurant setting. When you really break it down, usually you have zero agency.
That's right, you just order and wait.
Exactly. You look at a menu, you point to a picture, and you get what you get. If the chef added too much salt or if the steak is slightly overcooked, you just have to accept it. You are a passive recipient. But in a hot pot restaurant, you dictate the exact flavor, the exact temperature, and the exact texture of every single bite that goes into your mouth.
It is incredibly empowering in a culinary sense. It takes a beginner, someone who might just be learning these words like boiling and tender, and it teaches them how to take total control of their meal.
It really does.
And the setting of the cold winter night is the perfect backdrop because the contrast highlights the experience. Outside, you are at the mercy of the elements. It is cold, it is dark, and you are passive. Inside, surrounded by that fragrant steam, you are warm, you are intensely active, and you are entirely in control.
It is the ultimate winter comfort food, but it is a comfort food that makes you work for it just a little bit. And that interactive DIY process is exactly what makes it so fun. Well, we have talked a lot today about the mechanics, the flavors, and the tools of this meal. We explored the genius of the split pots acting as diplomatic boundaries. We talked about the sauce stations where you become a flavor engineer. And we slowed down to understand specific vocabulary like mala and the difference between raw and tender.
It truly earns the title of a mini cooking party.
It really does. But before we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we talked heavily about that crucial 10-second rule for cooking the thin slices of beef. We talked about how if you lose your focus for just a few moments, the meat overcooks and loses its beautiful tenderness.
The stakes are surprisingly high for a casual dinner, yes.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder, could it be that the true magic of hot pot isn't actually in the perfectly spiced mala broth? Could it be that the magic isn't even in the custom garlic and sesame dipping sauce you created?
Interesting. Where's the magic then?
Could the real magic of this meal be how it forces you to be hyper-present in the moment? We live in a world where we are constantly distracted. We are always looking at screens, always thinking about the next thing on our to-do list, even when sitting across from our closest friends.
That is very true.
But when you're sitting at a hot pot table, holding a delicate piece of food in boiling water, losing focus for just a few seconds means the difference between a perfect bite and a ruined one. It demands your attention. It demands that you stay right there in the room with the people you care about. And maybe, just maybe, that level of forced, beautiful attention, it's actually the most refreshing thing on the entire menu.
That is a wonderful way to look at it.
Yeah.
It feeds you, but it also grounds you.
It certainly does. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you stay warm, stay present, and maybe try mixing up your own flavor potion very soon. Take care, everyone.